everyone, I'm Robin and this is Faith and Flour. Welcome back. I have a lot going on in today's video and I'm going to start with a little grocery haul. This is some whole grain bread that we have really been enjoying. It's called Dave's Killer Bread. It's organic and it's super yummy. And then I like to have some naan bread on hand. I like the one from Trader Joe's best, but this one from our local grocery store is great too. We use it for having with soups. I love to make it as pizza crust. And I picked up several boxes of vanilla instant yogurt because that is really good when added to a box cake mix. And then they had several of the cereals that we really like on sale this week. So whenever that happens, I like to stock up. This Dunkin' Donuts coffee creamer, the extra one that's made with real cream, is the one that Patrick and Kyle really love, so I wanted to make sure I had plenty of that. I also picked up the filtered whole lactose-free milk that I like for making yogurt, and as a treat I picked up some Bluebell ice cream, which is a family favorite. I also made sure that I got mozzarella cheese for our pizzas. We're tending to have that almost every Friday night. And I picked up lunch meats, some sour cream, and I'm trying this lactose-free organic plain yogurt for a recipe that I'm using later today. I didn't have time to make my yogurt yet. I'm gonna do that later, but I'll show you guys this recipe, so if you're interested, stay till the end of the video. And so I'm going to also be using this grass-fed ground beef, and I'm doing sort of a batch cooking. And then we needed to replace our Bic lighter. We took the one that we had to our RV, and so we need one for here for lighting the grill and things like that. I also picked up kale and green onions for recipes that I'm planning for later in the week. And again, they had some specials on Bush's baked beans and some corn, so I made sure to stock up on those things while the prices were good. I also grabbed another can of the pumpkin. That, along with that vanilla instant pudding that I showed you earlier, are great to put in a cake. That is something I'd like to have on hand so I can throw that together at a moment's notice. And of course, I had to get some pizza sauce. This one from our local grocery store is great, along with the one from Trader Joe's. Those are our favorites. And this Brianna's Homestyle creamy balsamic dressing is something that we love. And when I have that on hand, I can throw together a salad easily. So this is my quick grocery haul. I'm going to make a meatball recipe and basically quadruple it, and I have this recipe in this little cookbook that I put together back when Peyton had to start his gluten-free diet. I put together a lot of our family favorites that I converted to gluten-free, and I used snapfish or something like that to do it, and it came out really great. I refer to it all the time. But as I was thinking about making these meatballs, it was a Danish meatball recipe that I put in there. I thought about this Pioneer recipe where she sort of batch cooks a bunch of meatballs, and then she has about 3 or 4 different recipes that she uses with those frozen meatballs. So I decided that I was going to do something similar. I'm going to make the Danish meatballs for dinner tonight and freeze the rest and give some of her variations a try. Before I start cooking, I wanted to fill you in on my kitchen disaster where I was completely convinced that I had ruined our countertop. I dry my dishes on this area of the counter and I allowed moisture to create a sort of mold situation, but it went so deep into our countertop there was almost no way to remove it. We even consulted with a stone expert. This is a natural limestone countertop, which by the way, I would never recommend. It's way too porous. And they basically told us that we would have to replace it. I know it's probably hard for you to see in the video, but in person it looked terrible. It was glaringly obvious to us and it bothered me every time I was using our countertop here. I figured that all hope was lost and I had resigned myself to the fact that we were going to have to bite the bullet and replace our countertop at some point. But a company called MB Stone Care contacted me out of the blue and asked if I'd like to try their products. And so I took pictures of the countertop and explained what happened and asked if there was anything that they could do to help this situation. They let me know that there were steps that I could take to possibly fix this situation, and they sent me a box of their products along with detailed instructions on how to use them. I was a little skeptical because I have tried a few products that were recommended and they did not work, but I thought I have nothing to lose at this point. If I'm going to have to scrap the countertop, then I don't even have to worry about doing further damage, so I'm just going to go for it. The first step was to spray the mold and mildew remover right over the areas that were stained. And I actually have to say that I wouldn't recommend using the sprayer. Later I take it off and just pour it directly on the areas because I found there's a lot of overspray when you use the sprayer, just a little tip. And then they also suggest that you can use a soft brush, so I just grabbed a toothbrush to sort of work it in. As I said, our countertop is limestone, so it's really porous, and I just wanted to make sure that the product had a chance to really get down into the little nooks and crannies. The instructions say to use a liberal amount of the product and then allow the mold or mildew stain to disappear, being careful not to allow the product to dry on the surface. And then if you are using it on a surface where you prepare food, be sure to rinse it at least twice. So this product definitely contains bleach. I could smell it, and bleach and stainless steel don't really go together very well. So that's why I'm using a bucket. And so I filled that up with some fresh water and I used that to rinse the countertop. I could see the stain fading, but it wasn't quite gone. And the next step is to buff the countertops. And I just had the idea that maybe buffing it and removing a little bit of the surface layer would allow the product to penetrate deeper. So I buffed this area and then I retreated it with the stain remover. I say buffing, but it's actually more like sanding. There are several different pads, they're kind of different levels, and so you start off with the roughest and work your way to the smoothest, and eventually we did that across the entire countertop. But Kyle stepped in to help me because I really wanted to focus on this stained area and see if we could remove the stains before we proceeded with the rest of the steps. And we basically wore down the first pad trying to do this area. So we pulled out one of the sanders that Patrick had in the garage and used slightly rougher pad on it to kind of go at this area. And what we did was we sanded it, I wiped it, and then we sanded it a little bit more, and then I kept retreating the area with that mold and mildew stain remover. You would think with all of the sanding this would be a huge mess, but they recommend keeping everything wet, and so the mess just stays right on the surface of the countertop. It doesn't fly around in the air at all. Their process was really pretty mess-free. And so here I am pouring the stain remover onto this area and working it in again, and I have to say that I couldn't be more pleased. Their step-by-step process was very easy to follow, the mess was minimal, and the results were amazing. Plus, if you don't have this level of staining or an issue this severe with your stone, you will love using these products for regular maintenance. If you have natural stone in your home, you'll know that it has to be sealed periodically, and their barrier, sealer, and protector works great. It's very easy to apply, and the results can last for 3 to 5 years, which is far longer than most other products on the market. And I feel like it's done a great job on our countertop, which is extra porous. Their Stone and More multi-surface cleaner, which is pH neutral, and their Ultimate Spray polish and protector are great products for maintaining your counter on a more regular basis. They sort of restore the luster, the shine, and the brilliance of your natural stone, just like it was when it was installed. I'm so excited to recommend these products to you because I'm amazed at what they did for our countertop, which I really thought was ruined. I also love their customer service. If you have any issue with your countertop or questions, they would love to help you out. If you are interested, I have a link down in my description box, and if you use the code Faith and Flour, you'll get 15% off of your entire purchase. Now that this issue was solved, I was on a quest for the perfect dish drying solution for our countertop to avoid the mistake of having too much moisture sitting on the countertop for a prolonged period of time. And so I hope that I've found the solution with this collapsible dish drying rack. This I actually borrowed from our RV. I use it there and I love it. It collapses, so it's a real space saver, but what I love about it the most is that there's a tray underneath that captures all of the water and directs it to this little spout so that I can aim it right towards my sink and keep the countertops completely dry. This one is a little bit small, and I'm going to take it back to our RV and order a slightly larger size for our countertop, but it might be a little bit of an eyesore, so I love that it's collapsible, and I want to make room for it underneath my kitchen sink so that I can put it out of sight when I'm not using it. But currently, the situation under my sink isn't really allowing me the space for it, so I need to come in here and tidy up a little bit and do a little bit of rearranging to make room for it, and also to make this area function a little bit better. It's been a while since I have done any decluttering in here and reorganizing. First step is to clear everything out. That way I can clean under here really well. It's been a while since I've done that. And also I'll be able to assess what I have, declutter anything that isn't useful anymore, or relocate things that maybe don't even belong here. In our previous home, we had a slow leak under one of our sinks, and it did some damage to the inside of the cabinet. So to avoid that disaster, I put some sort of container under the pipes of every sink of our home. And so here in the kitchen, I'm just using a dish pan, and I put that under the pipes, but I also use it to corral some different items like my dishwasher tabs, the brushes that I use for dishwashing. I also have some extra gloves in here, and extra of the 7th generation rinse aid, which I really like to use in our dishwasher. I also have some homemade soft scrub cleanser. This is where I like to make sure I have a little barkeeper's friend always on hand as well. It's great for stains on my enameled cast iron cookware and also stains on stainless steel. Nothing will shine up your stainless steel kitchen sink better. I also keep my little dish stream stopper in there, and then this bottle brush came in a set of 2, and they have such long handles that I can hardly even use it. So Kyle actually cut one down for me with a saw, and I keep this extra one on hand. It's a backup. Some of the other things that I've been storing under the sink are the usual suspects. I've got one of those bag containers for bags from the grocery store. We reuse those as garbage bags sometimes. And also this roll-up dish rack. That's what I was using on the countertop, and I would just dry the dishes right away afterwards. I think I'm gonna hold on to it for a while because it's still very useful. But before I start sorting through all of that stuff, I want to clean out under here really well. And so I'm just using one of my e-cloth, microfiber cloths, dampened with some water to really scrub it and get it nice and clean. There's actually a little bit of glue from something that was going on in here when the house was being built, I guess, and every time I clean under here, I try to scrub it away, but it's basically just a stain. But in any case, I'm getting it nice and clean and ready to put everything away. And I'm also going to clean out this dish pan. A lot of debris collects in here, and it just needs to be cleaned once in a while, so this is the perfect time to do that. I decided not to keep the bag dispenser underneath the sink. I could find a little bit of space in our pantry next to some of the other paper goods, and that just sort of made sense to me, so I moved it in there. And then I sorted through the things that were left, and a few of these would probably be better off stored in our laundry room with the other cleaners. I've got some extra dishwashing tabs that will stay under the sink and a couple of spray cleaners, but the rest will go into the laundry room. The last time I refilled my dishwashing liquid, I had a little extra, so I was storing that underneath the sink. But now there's enough room for me to empty the rest in here and discard the container. After the cleaning and decluttering, I think I'll have plenty of room for the dish drying rack. I use this little bucket to collect scraps for our compost, so I will tuck that back in there along with the extra dishwashing tabs and then some of the cleaners that I use on a daily basis. And on the right side of the cabinet, there's plenty of room for the dish drying racks and the extra bottle brush. It feels really satisfying to take on a small project like this, and so now every time I retrieve something from underneath the sink, which is every day, multiple times a day, I'm glad that I did it. And I also have a way to store my new dish drying rack to keep my countertop clear. Now I'm going to put my countertop to use as it was intended, and that is for cooking. I'm going to make a big batch of meatballs that are gluten-free. I'm going to make some for dinner tonight, and I will freeze the rest. In coming up with a substitute for breadcrumbs to make these gluten-free, I did a lot of trial and error, but I finally figured out that grinding up oats, making a coarse oat flour, and I just do that right in my blender with dry oats, and these are gluten-free oats, of course. I can swap these out for breadcrumbs, and they make the meatballs come out great. I will put my recipes for the meatballs and the sauce that I'm making for dinner tonight down in the description box. It's for Danish Meatballs. I adapted this recipe from a cookbook years and years ago, and I basically just add the usual spices. I'm making it rather plain. There's eggs and a little bit of garlic powder. I put in some dried minced onions, but I'm keeping them plain because I want them to be versatile. I'm using them for this Danish meatball recipe tonight, but I want to use some of the Pioneer Woman's recipes for sort of like sweet and sour and barbecue and other things, and so I don't want to add, any specific spices, but if I were going to use them for, say, spaghetti and meatballs, I would want to maybe add some Italian seasoning. So you get the idea. You can make them with whatever ingredients that you like, and I'm quadrupling the recipe that I'm putting down in the description box so that I have lots to freeze so that I can whip them out and make some different meatball recipes anytime I like. I like making my meatballs in the oven, and this is especially great when I'm doing big batches like this. And I like to line a rimmed baking sheet because sometimes there is a little bit of grease from the meatballs, and this way that captures it. It doesn't run off into the bottom of your oven. And they just cook for a little while at 350, and I have them cooling on the counter while I fix the sauce. And this sauce, it comes together really fast. I stir some gluten-free flour into melted butter, and then I add some chicken broth. I also add some dill to this recipe. This makes the Danish meatballs so yummy. And I let this mixture come to a boil so that the sauce thickens, and then I add some plain yogurt. I stir in the yogurt until the sauce is smooth and velvety, and I turn the heat off, and then it's time to stir the meatballs into the sauce, and everything is ready to go. I like to serve the meatballs over some rice, and tonight I'm serving it with some peas. And so this is a really simple, very fast dinner to put together, especially if you've made the meatballs ahead of time. All you have to do is defrost them and add them to the sauce. And I'm not sure how appetizing this looks to you guys, but I promise that this tastes amazing. My family absolutely loves it. And as I'm looking at the green from the dill and the green from the peas, I'm thinking it would be great to serve on St. Patrick's Day. I let the meatballs cool here on the stovetop while we ate our dinner, and now I'm just packing them up into a Ziploc bag, which I've labeled, so that I will have meatballs ready to try out some of those other recipes. It always feels good to do a little batch cooking like this when I'm making a meal. I can quadruple a recipe and have some items in my freezer that make getting dinner on the table on a busy weeknight very easy. And of course, it's time for a quick kitchen cleanup, but that's even quicker when I pull out those meatballs for a future meal too, because there's no cleanup left to do for those. And tonight, because I used the foil to line the baking sheets, it's really not going to be a problem. When doing the dishes after dinner, I like to load up the dishwasher with anything that I want to go in there, and then everything that I want hand washed I save till last. And it may sound a little weird, but I have a feeling some of you will get what I'm saying. I'm excited to try out this little dish drying rack that we use in our RV here in our kitchen. I think it's going to be a great solution. Now that our countertops are sealed really nicely, I have less worries that we're going to have another mildew or mold stain problem, but I don't want to take any chances. Once all of the dishes are done, I just take my damp e-cloth and clean up the countertops and the stove. These are amazing for removing any grease splatters and getting my stovetop shiny and streak-free. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. I hope that it gave you lots of homemaking motivation and inspiration. I really enjoyed spending time with you today. And if you are new here, I would love to have you join our Faith and Flour community by subscribing. Subscribing is absolutely free and easy. And if you activate the bell icon, you'll get a notification every time I upload a new video so you don't miss out on anything. Thank you guys so much. I always appreciate your support, and you know I love hearing from you in the comments, so I hope to see you there. And of course, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, have a wonderful week.